Hey everyone, welcome back to the library stage. I'm so excited to be here today with Carolyn Slavin. She is a bilingual elementary librarian in Leander ISD, just north of Austin, Texas. She has been in education for 16 years, and this is her 8th year as a school librarian. She is an active member of the Texas Library Association and a member of the Tejas Star Reading List Committee, a list promoting Spanish language and bilingual books for ages 5 through 12. And I added that she is also the incoming chair of the Library Leadership Roundtable underneath TLA. Carolyn, the stage is yours.
Thank you so much. So, today I wanted to share something that I do in my elementary library involving the Tejas Star list, which I'm now a committee member of. I wasn't before, and I just used the list often in my school and always purchased the books that are on the Tejas Star bilingual reading list. And so I use that list and the Bluebonnet list as well to promote reading in my elementary library. So, just a little bit of background about my school and kind of my experience. I've been in education for 16 years. So, for the first 8 years, I was a dual language teacher. And so I am bilingual, I'm fluent in Spanish as well. But I wanted to emphasize that many, many, many librarians across the state of Texas, across the whole United States, everywhere should definitely implement these types of things, even if you're not bilingual yourself. Just being involved in promoting many, languages and access to books for all of our students is just a top notch, awesome thing to do. So hopefully I can spread the word and anyone can, implement these things. So I was a dual language teacher. And then in the year 2019, 2020 was my first year as a librarian, which was an eventful year because spring break comes and we're all going home for COVID. And so it was very different, but I work at a dual language campus. And so we're not 100% bilingual, but I would say over 50% for sure. It has about 600-ish students, give or take, and K through 5. And then every grade level has either 5 or 6 classrooms. So out of those, either 3 classrooms are dual language and 3 are monolingual, and some grade levels, the majority, like the 3 classes, are dual language versus 2 monolingual in some grade levels. And so we do have a ton of students who are mainly Spanish speaking, and we have a lot of students who are also learning Spanish because it's a two-way program. And so lots of kids want to still read some in Spanish, but their, home language is English. So we have just opportunities for all the kids. So what I do in my library is this is mainly for third, fourth, and fifth graders because the Blue Bonnet list is aimed at that group, whereas the Tejas Star list kind of expands to all grade levels, I would say, in elementary. But this challenge that I put on basically is for the third through fifth graders. And so, what I would do first is talk with the teachers before, kind of as we're doing professional development before the school year starts. I would give them a list, the third, fourth, and fifth grade teachers. And so these lists are available and they're really, really beautiful, nice tracking sheets that are available. And Amanda's going to put them in the show notes. There's links on the page on the website and also on the Bluebonnet resources website. And so you can do a nice little pretty tracking sheet. What I do is do back to back, and I have one side is the Tejas Star, which is 20 books, and the other side is the Bluebonnets, which is 20 books. So it's 40 books altogether. And so I'll give that to teachers first. And I'll actually give them a copy that marks on there some of the books that I'm going to do in library lessons. Now, I am part of our specials rotation. So I am on the rotation, as some of us say. And it's just been like that at my school for quite a long time. And so I'm kind of used to it. I know we all don't see it as the most ideal, but it's working for us. And so I do get to see every class consistently, and then I do some of my lessons throughout the year involving these books from the list, where there's also activities available on those websites to pair with every book if you want to. I don't have the time to do every single book, obviously, but it's very, very, very resourceful to just have that available. So once I give that to teachers, I talk just a little bit about them. It takes maybe 5 minutes to talk if I get to meet which with each grade level, or if I'm just at a big meeting or something, I can do it super quickly. I can give them the papers and then explain how they will also need to have a place where students can put this paper because they'll get a physical copy in more like September when I start the challenge. So I kind of wait for the beginning of the school year to get going. We do some, rules and procedures and things like that in the library first before I start this reading challenge. But to have teachers let them know about, a few weeks in advance is helpful. And then in September, I'll do a lesson with my students that's all about this Tejas Star list and the Bluebonnet list. And so I'll show them the pictures and I might show one or two book trailers, but I'll also explain how it's a reading challenge that if they read, what I do personally is you can totally change prizes and like, you know, different levels and stuff. But what I personally do is there's if they read 5 total, then they get we have school like money. So they're called beeper bucks because we're the roadrunners and our roadrunner is named Beeper. And so they would get beeper bucks for reading 5 books, then for reading a total of 10. So this is from both sides of the paper, like Tejas Star and Bluebonnet. So out of 40 books, they have a choice. And so if they read 10, I do a donut. And if they read 15, I do a prize from Five Below, like some sort of prize. Like usually they'll pick, squishies or slime or something, but I give them kind of a paper to choose from later once they earn that prize. And so, anyways, in that lesson, I'll kind of explain the list, but I always have it marked on there. Sorry, I was mentioning this before with the teachers. I'll always have it marked on the squares of which books I'm going to read in my library lessons. So those count. And so, say I'm going to read one chapter book. I usually can't fit in a long chapter book with my library lessons, but maybe I'll read them a short chapter book over a few weeks. I'll mark that off like Miss Slavin is going to read it for you, or like just Miss Slavin read aloud, I think, and put it on there. And so that one's going to count. We just wait to check it off when we're done reading it. And then maybe 2 or 3 picture books that are on the list as well. So I'll pick from both sides from Tejas Star and Bluebonnet. And so those will already count for the students. So I usually end up reading about 4 through my library lessons during the fall. And so kids who want to read 5 and get just the most basic prize, you're done. Like you got it. As long as they put in that effort to like, oh, I'm going to go read something on my own and pick one other book, perfect. And then if they want to go put in the effort and read all the way up to 10, I read 4 with them already, so they really just have to do 6 more. And so I kind of explain all that during a lesson. And then what I've found, this is through trial and error, like being able to get the kids to check them out. And there will be tons of people that will want these books on hold, and all the kids are interested for the most part. So what I do is I have these counters on the side of my library, or maybe computers, probably before I was there. But so there's these counters on the side of the library that I will tape down a big, beautiful picture of the cover of the book. And then I'll put a little note card taped on there, like hold. And so the kids will they have to write their first and their last name because I've got, you know, a couple of Samuels and a couple of Valentinas. And so they have to write their full name and it'll be on hold. So I don't really put that in my Destiny library system. I just kind of have it physically on there so that when I know I'm checking in books and getting a Bluebonnet book back or a Tejas Star book back, then I just have to go check the next person on that list on that little note card, and I cross them off, and I check the book right out to them immediately. So they kind of circulate often and just keep on going throughout the year. And then if there is a book available, it's set directly on top of that counter, on top of the so in the very, very, very beginning, that counter is full of little piles of books with it's on top of the picture of that book itself, and then they get picked up really fast. So that usually works out. I've discovered, I think the first couple of years I just had, here's all the books available, and then you got to tell me if you want it on hold. And so it wasn't really circulating as much as I wanted it to, or kids were waiting way too long. So I'll also put a little spine label, like just a little piece of tape on the spine of all of them that's like, Tejas Star, return soon. So it's kind of a reminder that's one of the special ones that like other kids are waiting for this. So then that's throughout the fall, and I'm promoting it throughout the fall because I'm kind of reading the books intermixed with all my other library lessons, and doing activities that go with them. And then in January, we give out prizes and we also vote on the Bluebonnets, which is really well organized from the Texas Library Association and that Bluebonnet committee. So, as the Tejas Star committee, we're trying to kind of promote things too and keep it going. And it's really, really easy to do at literally any school because I would say 90 to 95% of the Tejas Star books are also available in English. It's not just that they're Spanish books, it's that usually these books are published in both languages. And so I have them available in both. So a lot of times my students who only, might speak English, they can go read those books in the English version, but they're still getting the multicultural aspect and the understanding of there might be little pieces of Spanish words intermixed. So they're learning a little bit more at our dual language campus. And so I really love that it incorporates just everybody. And then our students who are newcomers as well, who come from a Spanish speaking country, they didn't feel that maybe only reading Blue Bonnets, because those were only in English, was very accessible. And so they can read the Spanish versions of the Tejas Star books. It's available to everyone. So I love having that activity, and it goes throughout the year and it provides a variety of choice to all of our students.
Yeah, like, oh my gosh, I had never thought of, like, pairing lists together, so I
Mhm.
absolutely love this. I know that, like, we obviously are in Texas and other states might have, like, a different reading list, but
Yeah.
I encourage you to, like, look at your reading list and see, are any of those titles available in another language that maybe your students speak predominantly in your emerging bilingual program, and see about purchasing those, and then you can pair them together. So the Carolyn's elementary, well, I'm going into high school this year. I'm already thinking. So in high school, we have a list called the Tejas list in Texas. And so I'm already thinking like, how could maybe I pair the Tejas list with like a nonfiction pairing book with that one. And then I'd have almost like a whole other list. So like if like Candace Fleming has like a nonfiction book on there about death in the jungle, for example, like maybe I could find something to pair it with, and then that way it would be like a pairing situation, kind of like what Carolyn's doing. I know that not every state has like a million reading lists like we do in Texas, but yeah, just kind of getting creative with it, regardless of your age level that you work with, or regardless of if you how many lists you have, you can even make your own. Like it doesn't have to be like a state award list. So that's what I love about what you're talking about, Carolyn, is that it can be adapted for so many different grade levels and
Yeah.
states too, right? So, since we've been talking about the books on these lists, for our curtain call, would you like to share some of them?
Yes, I have a couple recommendations from this year's Tejas Star and Bluebonnet list. So one of my favorites, and then I got to do the little activity that I recommended on the website for this one on the Tejas Star list. It's called Popo y Xolo. But there's also the English version of a picture book, and it's Popo the Xolo. But it's just a dog, and his name is Popo. And Xolo is short for Xolo Escuincle, which is a long name of a breed of Mexican dog, like a Mexican dog. And so that it's really, really beautiful. The illustrations are amazing. It actually also won the Pura Belpré award for illustration. And it's kind of a story leading through the levels of like the afterlife and how the dog guides. There's like a grandma figure, and then how the kids that are still alive and everything, they remember their grandma, and through being with the dog and having her memories and everything, it's just a really gorgeous, amazing story, and it's also like it's an approachable way for elementary students to kind of learn about death a little bit, just, you know, being able to remember your loved ones and sort of the beauty in that still, and so I love that book, and I wanna end up reading that one, and maybe the following lesson, do one from the Bluebonnet list, which is called The Invisible Parade, and The Invisible Parade is also an award-winning illustrations, just amazing story, and so that one they're both picture books, so they can be read during just one lesson, most likely. I get 50 minutes with my kids, so we usually do some time to check out and read, and then I move to a lesson, and then they get just a little bit of free time at the end, usually, and like or maker space time. So, uh, yeah, and we do like something that goes along with the lesson, but yeah, so I love those 2 books, and I really highly recommend them, and I recommend pretty much anything on the Tejas Star in the Bluebonnet list.
Fantastic. Where can people find you, Carolyn, if they had questions or want to see what you're doing?
Yeah, so I do have an Instagram for my library. It's at read LMELEM read like elementary library, but LM lib. Um, or at Biblioteca Read, all one word. So I just kind of usually post almost the same thing, but one in Spanish, one in English. And then also, if you want, my personal Instagram is fine too, because I'm friends with all my library people. So it's C Slavin 87. Yeah.
And those will all be linked in the show notes along with the resources that Carolyn shared today. Thank you so much, Carolyn, for being a guest on the
Yay,
episode.
so much. Great.